Hi guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small piece, which is much easier for me to handle. I'm going to make some sort of scratches on it and so on. I've already cleaned it up to take the dust and so off it, but I'm going to make some scratches, going to sort of give it a little clean, and I'm going to show you, and hopefully this gives you a better sense of why the kind of surface scratches and little marks that you see when you first take it out the crate are really not an issue. Okay, so guys, what I've got here is I've got a stack of tiles. And typically when you take the tiles out, or slabs, this doesn't really matter whether it's slabs or tiles, when you take them out of a crate or off a pallet, you'll see what, you'll get pretty much this kind of look. So these sort of whitish bits, maybe sort of white lines, what might look like here, if I come here, these sort of, yeah, whitish, chalkish marks, I guess. So it looks a little bit unsightly. The tiles and slabs do get washed before they go in a crate, but this is typically what the tiles will look like. So don't think that this is a pristine inner box type of product. All natural stone, generally speaking, will all kind of look like this. It shows up more in the darker slate because obviously it's a dark colour, so all of these whitish and chalky lines just show up a little bit more. But I'm going to just show you now with a small piece why this is really not an issue. Okay, so this is a small piece. It's a 20 by 20 piece, but it's the same product as the slate that I showed you from the previous clip, just a smaller version, so it's easy for me to handle and show it on this video. So what I've done is I've just basically given it a clean, all the sort of dust and so off. As you can see, hopefully from this, it looks pretty, you know, free of any marks and so on. But what I'm now going to do is I'm going to make some light scratch marks on the surface just to, I guess, simulate what you might see when you take the product out of a crate, and clean it up, and then I'll show it to you again. Okay? Hi folks, right, so what I've got here is just got a coin. I'm going to make some, hopefully you can see that here. I'm just going to move it around. So I've just done some 4 kind of lines. I hope you can see that on the video. I'm just in a warehouse here, so I'll just move this around because as the light catches it, it might be more visible on the video. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just rub it with just a cloth, and then I'm going to use slightly damp cloth to see what effect that has, and then I'm going to show it to you. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to rub it dry, then with a little bit of water on the cloth, and then I'm going to show you, and you'll notice then that these sort of surface scratches won't be visible. Okay, so here's a dry cloth. Just going to give it a bit of a rub. Okay, so just move this around. You might see faint traces. I can see it from where I'm looking at it, but it may not be that visible on the camera. However, what I'm now going to do is just going to wet this and then clean it and give it a bit more of a rub, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, so what I've got, I've just gently wet this cloth. I'm now going to give it a bit of a rub. You can see the slight darkening of the colour now. So just going to, just bear with me, I'm going to put this down flat so I can do it better. So it's pretty much sort of shiny and so on the surface, okay? As you can see. If I come this way a bit, maybe. So I'm moving this around, just I hope that you can get a better sense of this on the video. So I'm now going to wait a little while. Clearly I don't want to bore you guys, so I'm just going to come back to this. I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to set it somewhere where it can just dry off naturally, and then I'm just going to show you and move it around, and you can see what it looks like. Okay, guys, I'm just showing you this so you can see how it's just, I haven't dried this off, it's just drying naturally. So as it dries off, you can see the sort of evaporation occurring. Yeah. So I'm going to come back to this probably in a couple of minutes, I guess, and show you this completely dry tile. So what we've basically done is we cleaned it, we deliberately scratched it lightly on the surface and clean it with a dry cloth, then a damp cloth. We're waiting for it to dry, and then I'm going to show you the results. And then you can get a better sense of what this looks like. Okay, thanks. Actually, guys, what I've done is, while that was drying, and it's completely dry, I've actually applied some sealer to about a third or maybe about a half. So you can see where it's a little bit more shiny here, because I've just applied the sealer on this section here. And I'm going to just let that dry off, because once you clean it and dry it and so on, it is advisable to seal it. So I'm going to deliberately just seal one side and then leave the other side not sealed. So you can just see the effect and the colour, slight colour difference once it's sealed. This is an impregnating sealer, so it sits in the stone, not on the surface. So the reason it looks maybe a bit shiny here is because there's still some excess on the surface, which I'm just going to dry off. Let it completely dry and then come back and show you, okay? Hi folks, so right. So on this side here, this is where, it was about here, about I think just under a half. I sealed it with an impregnating sealer. It's now completely dry. As you can see, it's not much colour difference, and that's typical when you use an impregnating sealer. It might darken the colour slightly from its natural state, but not a huge amount, as I think you can see. You might just see a slight dark band here. That's where obviously the edges of the sealer, which is perhaps more contrast against where it's not been sealed. But virtually, other than that slight line here, you can't really see much of a difference, I'd imagine. But the main thing here is, cleaned it, made some scratches, washed it and so on, applied some sealer. Now I'll move this around and I'll do it this way and that way, but there are no scratches that you can see. Okay, so the slate, for surface scratches and the kind of whitish type of marks that you saw when you take it out the crate, once it's cleaned, washed and sealed, you'll really not see these sort of scratches. Of course, if you've got deep gouges, like literally you've taken a screwdriver and you've scratched the surface in that kind of way, then that's different. But we're talking about the typical surface scratches where tiles are sort of rubbing together and that kind of thing. That pretty much all disappears when you've cleaned it, washed it and sealed it. Okay, so I hope that's useful. But of course, if you've got any questions, then please get in touch.